obviously entered the reactor compartment to do some emergency repairs so the ship could perform optimally. But he didn't quite walk away from that adventure as everyone would have liked, which is why the crew, like Scotty and the engineering team, were telling him, no, Spock, no. That's because we all know now that radiation is pretty dangerous for you, mainly radiation sickness or poisoning. But we didn't always know that or understand that very well. And in the early 1900s, they actually used to use a lot of paints or glasses that they made because it looks really pretty. Like this is a Fiesta-ware plate, and it has a very nice color to it. But the fact is, this is actually very radioactive, which we can see with a Geiger counter. It measures how much radiation is coming off of things. So now we know this is probably not a good thing for you to be eating off of, but we didn't quite always understand that. It is safe as long as, you don't chip the paint and eat the paint, but I don't know if you want to take that risk or not. Other things that they used to use would make glass with it. This glass is made with types of uranium, and you can see it's a nice, brilliant yellow color, which is where uranium gets its nickname, yellow cake. But, of course, aesthetics are not exactly something to sacrifice your safety for, so we don't do that quite as often. But you can also see that this is somewhat radioactive. Not as much as the plate, just a little bit. But one thing that we can do, if you notice, here we have a picture of Kirk standing next to Spock. So why is Kirk okay? It's not just because he's the captain and he's William Shatner, but it's also because of a thing called shielding. And we actually know that shielding can help block or restrict how well radiation gets through it based on a tint thickness. And we actually even now in the real world use lead-impregnated glass for this very purpose. And I have some examples of types of shielding here. A very common one is lead, because lead happens to be a very good shield. It's a very dense material, which helps it block a lot of the radiation. So you'll see here the normal uranium glass has a nice little tick to it. With the shield over it, it's not as much. It goes down pretty significantly. And this is because the lead is actually stopping how much radiation can get through it. And you can try it with different materials, and different materials have different abilities. Actually, common materials that are used for shielding are also like steel and even just water, because water actually works pretty well. But aesthetics isn't the only reason why we have radiation. A lot of times we thought that it was a bad thing to have radiation, but we actually have applications for it in real life too. Here's a dismantled smoke detector, which everyone should have in their house. And this one may not work anymore, so don't put any safety bets on this one. But part of this is an ionizing chamber, and the way that these would work is we know pretty safely how consistently radiation works, and it creates an electrical signal. And when the smoke particles or dust or water or anything really interferes with it, it changes it enough that the detector can tell that change, and that's when it makes an alarm. But you can even see that this itself is just a little bit radioactive. Maybe. There you go. But this isn't too bad. So we do actually have applications for radiation in our everyday life. But the fact is, radiation is actually all around us. Every day, everywhere that we go, radiation is a part of our life. And it's not just something that man has made, it's actually just a naturally occurring thing. This balloon, we just use the old trick everyone knows where you put static electricity on it on your hair. And it charges the balloon. And what happens is radon is a gas, which is Rn, the red one in the bottom right corner on the table there. And the gas floats around freely, but that gas is really unstable. So it ends up decaying into other things. And those decay products are attracted to the electrical charge on the balloon. So if you let the balloon sit for a while, it'll actually collect all of these radioactive materials that are just naturally occurring in the air. And after a while, you can actually measure the radiation going on.
If you can untie it.
If you can deflate the balloon.
Well, okay, here we go. First loud noise of the night.
Oh my god.
And when we hold it up to it, you can actually see that there's a decent amount that you can hear coming off of it. And this is around us all the time. But you don't need to worry about, suffering Spock's fate, because you'd have to have something like 10,000 times the amount of radiation on this over an hour for it to hurt you. So, just so long as you understand that, radiation, sometimes good, sometimes bad, but part of life.